we're also passionate about chasing waterfowl and just hunting in general.
Yeah, I mean, it's crazy, like just full circle, starting with just the Instagram and trying to get some free ammo, and now like got a full team, people on salary, and we're filming TV shows.
Well, to think we get to go on these trips and shoot a bunch of birds and hang out with people and make cool content for work, sometimes it's like you kind of like slap yourself and make you feel like it's real.
Yeah.
But
Well, guys, welcome. Episode number 1.
It's honored for episode number 1.
It's really cool. It's really cool. Obviously, we've known each other a little while, but it'd be cool to kind of get your backgrounds and a little bit about yourselves.
Yeah, I'll start off. My name's Duncan MacLeod, one of the co-owners here at Split Reed. I was actually born and raised in Richmond, Virginia. Kind of spent the first part of my career in the Southeast working. I actually worked at Altria, Philip Morris, so big tobacco, and always, kind of dreamed of moving out here to Colorado. And my girlfriend, now wife, my girlfriend at the time, kind of was trying to coax her to migrate west with me, and took her out here for a little trip and popped around the Rockies. She said she'd be down to move out here, so I put the plan into motion, like, all right, I'm going to start putting in requests at work to transfer out west. And I put a request in like everywhere from Bozeman, Denver, anywhere in northern Colorado, Salt Lake City, Seattle. I was like, anywhere out there I'm good with. And so finally they messaged me or emailed me, my boss did, and said there was an opening for the northern Colorado region. Yeah. I was like, all right, sign me up for that. Transferred out here, and then she transferred out 6 months later with her job, and then met Taylor actually pretty soon right after that, through one of our mutual friends who's also another co-owner of the business, Nick Costas, and he had met, I guess, how did he meet you? Hunting somewhere, right?
dive bomb hunt. Yeah, we were out hunting in Kansas with dive bomb.
Yeah, so Nick was like, you got to meet this dude Taylor. He's a good guy. Y'all would get along. Loves to hunt, fish. So we got up, started becoming friends from there, and got Taylor involved with the business soon after that, and kind of been rocking and rolling ever since. Five years and counting now. Yeah.
I'm Taylor Dunnigan. I actually. No one knows that. I'm
from
from
name tags right here.
northwestern Montana. Moved to Colorado when I was 6 or 7 years old. Lived on the Front Range for a long time. Yeah. And went to CSU, guided hunts throughout college, and then after college, and met with Nick Costas on a hunt, and introduced me to the Split Reed crew. And with the experience in the industry, guiding and stuff, and just kind of being in it for a while, it just seemed like a good fit, and we've been going strong since.
Now this is Taylor's office, as you saw coming in the front, the office.
That's awesome. This is where I work.
Envious of this office. Yeah, but a good place for the podcast.
So Jonny, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Adult onset hunter. Took hunter safety at 30 years old.
Wow.
And something that was called upon my soul, and it's like I needed to do it. Used to work at REI, used to backpack, fly fish, hunt, or camp, all that stuff. Rock climb, mountain bike. But there was something I needed more beyond that. In hiking, this idea of, it's always leave no trace principles, right? Like stay within the boundaries and the lines. Don't blaze a new trail. Only step where you're supposed to. And it's very restrictive. So when it came to hunting, like this fulfillment of like being self-reliant, courage, grit, determination, overcoming adversity. He was the Lone Ranger out on a horse on the range, and you're like, okay, I want to do that. Old country western movies used to like speak to me big time. So I was like, all right, I'm gonna hunt. I didn't know anyone hunted. It's not my lineage, no legacy. No one ever said, hey, do you want to hunt with me? And so I went about my journey of taking hunter safety and figuring it out. And it took a long time to figure out hunting. So I'm 39 now. And in 2017, I killed my first big game animal, which was a black bear in the state of Washington. 9 miles.
That's a good first one, first notch on the belt.
Yeah, I was a high school football coach and a school teacher at the time. And so I would always backpack the first couple weeks of August, but when I realized that I could hunt the same lands that I was backpacking, I was like, what? This idea of public lands isn't taught, right?
Yeah.
We're just like automatically supposed to know it. And so that revolutionized my world, and realized that there's got to be a lot more people out there like me. And so I created my content, my platforms with my mission of mentorship as conservation. If you want hunting to last for generations to come, then you got to invest in the hearts and lives of other people. And now I'm a father of 3 young boys who are going to be raised in a lineage of the hunting culture. Whether they choose to hunt or not is beyond, that's their choice. But now when it comes to them being of voter age and legislation and influence within their communities and their spheres, they get to speak about it in a positive manner, and it leaves a legacy of impact for the next generation.
Yeah.
Awesome. So what's the TV show you produce?
Yeah, Soul Seekers. So originally it was it all started around an Instagram account, ironically.
Always does.
It always does. Social media, man, the power of it. So it took to social media. I was a school teacher, and having social media for me was like taboo. Like students were always trying to find me on social media. I was like, no, I'd rather just be off of it. So I created an Instagram account called Washington Backcountry because I lived in Washington, and my first kill was in the backcountry, And so that was my brand, and I was like, I need more of a voice. So I started a podcast called The Soulful Hunter, because that was more my identity. Washington Backcountry was a community concept. And so then I moved to Texas, and Washington Backcountry doesn't have as far of a reach as the name goes. Soulful Hunter is strong in that regard, but I rebranded everything as Soul Seekers.
Yeah.
So Soul Seekers Podcast and Soul Seekers Nation now on Instagram, which is a lot of fun.
Nice. And y'all all based out of Texas, out of Dallas now?
Yeah, to Fort Worth.
Or Fort Worth. That's right.
Yeah.
You were saying that.
Yeah, cool. So, well, look, what I wanted to get you guys on the podcast is, as I said, we've known each other a while. I've been really impressed with the type of content that you guys produce. So I want to hear more about Split Read, how that came about, what you guys do. But then also, a big passion of mine and ours as a whole, and what we're doing with Kalari, that we've got such a focus on having media to drive growth of businesses and really leveraging the power of story. Yeah. And all of you guys at the table, you've got a huge amount of experience in building content and helping that to drive brands. So I want to kind of open up a discussion about that, because it's super interesting for, I think, our audience, but also looking at businesses and the core audience of our podcast is founders in the outdoor industry. And so I would love to kind of talk through how you built your brand, but then also the cool clients that you work with, because you've got some pretty cool stuff going on.
Yeah.
Maybe you can speak on the building and the start of it.
Yeah, I can kind of give the background on that. But I mean, to your point, like the foundation of it all is all driven through media and building brands through storytelling. Right. And that's something we realized early on. But actually not how when we started the business, it was back in 2018. We didn't really start it wanting it to be a business. We just kind of had this idea of, like portraying something that you're passionate about and see where it takes you, kind of. So back in 2018 is when we kind of officially started the idea again, starting on Instagram. And really the first goal, we'll joke about it now, but like the first goal was, hey, if we start something cool, we can grow a pretty big audience on social media and keep people entertained through content and whatnot. Who knows, we might be able to get free ammunition and maybe go on a few trips, paid for or something like that. Like that was our initial goal. Free ammunition, maybe a free gun, and go on some cool hunting trips, free of charge. And like that was pretty much our goal to start off. And then, as time went on, like, all that stuff obviously kind of came, but we realized there was like a bigger opportunity to create something more in the hunting space and specifically waterfowl, which a lot of us are all passionate about, as you can tell and as you know now. But we kind of, like, my partner Nick Kosis and I, who we mentioned earlier, realized that the hunting space was sort of back in, even 2017, 2018, like the hunting industry was pretty much behind the times as far as
Right.
like content, media, storytelling goes. And if you look at the fishing industry, for example, fly fishing specifically, they were light years ahead of where the hunting industry was. And so we sort of started realizing the opportunity that came about by noticing that, well, we've got this platform, we've got this following, we've got the ability to tell stories in the hunting industry. So no, why don't we like really kind of put this full throttle and start building a team around this. And that's essentially what we did. I mean, we started realizing that it was going to be more than just an Instagram account. There was an opportunity to sort of lead the way as far as like media companies go, and really take the content and the entertainment side of things and take it to the next level. And so, yeah, I mean, that's essentially how it all started. And then, flash forward a few years, Taylor came on board. We've actually got about 6 of us that own the business collectively. And Nick and I and another guy, Corey Mulhair, who lives in North Dakota, we're kind of early on grinding it out, trying to figure out what we were going to do with it, what direction it was going to go. And then, like I mentioned, things kind of came together. We realized what we could kind of bring it and create with it. And that's when we kind of brought some other guys who had kind of, expertise in the field and hunting and, created a pretty strong kind of partnership as far as the guys that are kind of owning the business, behind the business, and then was able to build just a super talented team as far as videographers, photographers, and all that, which Taylor and I personally don't, all this camera gear, we couldn't tell you up from down on it. I was joking with Kevin earlier. I was like, it's a lot of camera gear. I don't want to touch it because I'm gonna break it. Taylor would probably break it. But we've got a team of people that they know what the hell they're doing when it comes to content and telling stories. And people noticed, brands started noticing that, right? And we started honestly not working with brands right out of the gate. We worked with a lot of outfitters and hunting lodges, and that was kind of our way into the industry, kind of establish some credibility, get some projects, go on some trips, create some content. And then as that started getting out there in the world through our channels and as well as other people sharing it, different brands their heads started turning, right? Like if you can consistently put quality content out day in and day out, year in and year out, people start to notice. And that's kind of where we started moving more into like the brand world, I would say, which is more of the backbone now is the brand content and doing productions, TV shows, things of that nature. So yeah, I mean, it's crazy, like just full circle, starting with just the Instagram and trying to get some free ammo, and now like got a full team, people on salary, and we're filming TV shows.
Was it like a slowly then suddenly?
Oh yeah.
Like a oh man, and then whoa, I can't believe like this is where we're at.
Yeah, I'd say the first year or two just slow. What's going to happen, and then all of a sudden like things start falling into place, and all this becomes a full-time job pretty fast, and then next thing you know, you've got you got a whole team that you're having to worry about and whatnot. So it's been a wild ride for sure.
So you guys kind of built a reputation for building unique, high quality content, and then kind of fast track forward, you're producing shows for Meat Eater, you're producing like working with like Can-Am and all these other different brands. And how we met, we brought one of our portfolio companies into work with you guys, Tread Outdoors, and with the goal that we were trying to expand our brand from an overlanding focused product into the hunting market. And so once we saw the quality of content you guys were making and the exposure that we could kind of gain from that, it was kind of a no-brainer and a really natural fit. So I assume that's how other brands kind of found you and had a similar experience. But do you want to talk through like kind of how some of those brand partnerships came about and kind of how you were able to work with them to kind of drive growth?
Yeah, I mean, touching on like when Tread came obviously and approached Split Reed and we started that kind of relationship, I think piggybacking off what Duncan said, our team is built of, and we all come from different backgrounds, different parts of the country, different upbringing, stuff like that. But it's like this, everybody has something that they bring to the table. Like, I mean, Duncan is amazing at sales. He's great at business. Nick worked for a large company in the outdoor world. I mean, I guided. I know a lot about killing birds, and I know business stuff too. But yeah, there's so much to it. I think just like reiterating what he said is like being able to establish yourself and then prove what we can do, and then those brands come. I mean, I think a lot of the stuff, like just sharing decks and sharing our past work with these brands and having more of I think a big thing that we talked about earlier is running this as a business other than just like kind of like a side gig, like delivering, having stuff on time, having relationships, communication. I think that's huge. And I think that gets, I mean, the content speaks for itself.
That's
too,
the underrated part.
Yeah, that's the underrated part is like,
sure.
I think in this industry you have so many talented people, but when it comes to delivering and having deadlines and having these relationships, contract work, negotiating, getting these clients, I think that's what gets overlooked, and I think that's what we succeed in is really delivering and being an actual business that they can call and say that what they need and we get it done. And I think that kind of the word spreads. I mean, working with Browning, K&M, Meat Eater, all these big companies. I mean, just do a good job, and it shows for itself. So.
Yeah, and like just to add to that, like a lot of the like brands have only so much that they can handle internally with their own internal team. So they're always looking for like a reliable partner in the media space who can handle all their needs that more than their teams can even handle. And so they'll, that's where you get that first shot, right? Like hey, we know you guys produce quality content. Here's let's work on something together just to see how it goes. They're cautious, like they're big brands. They're not going to go all in right out of the gate, but they give you a chance to kind of prove yourself beyond just, hey, we make good videos and good content. Like Taylor's saying, you pair that, like the expertise with the content and the video and photo, and then you pair it with kind of like the other half of our business, which is people like, us who have the experience as far as communication's important, responding to emails is important, communicating your timelines and your deadlines, and if something's going wrong, come out and let them know and say, hey, this is what's happening right now. This is going to delay things. Here's our solutions that we have in place to kind of overcome that. And so that's why they keep coming back and wanting to continually work with us, is because it's the full package of everything,
I mentioned to you earlier when we were meeting about the whole idea of the outdoor industry being very poor at communication.
Yeah,
it's true, and
it's
so true. Man.
You hitting on that point, that's critical.
It is.
My mama, she always told me communication is the key to every successful relationship.
It is,
and business is just relationship, right? Just, trusting people and enjoying them.
It's easy to go out hunting, like you said, get lost in the backcountry, but if you're kind of got responsibilities and ties to the business side of it, you can't just disappear for 3 weeks, 4 weeks or so, and then just come get to your emails a month or so later. You got to have the communication has to keep going.
So that one of the questions, if you don't mind, Chris, I apologize. How do you balance your passion for hunting in the outdoors and your business? Because sometimes people say, well, if you do something you love, you never work a day in your life. But at the same time, you could almost spoil the thing that you loved. So that balance of it being an actual facilitating business.
It's a good question.
I think, I'll speak on like when we were talking about like what separates us, and it kind of ties in with your question is, I think you see so much in the industry, you see so much forced content. So you see content that is just, it's artificial, it's not natural, it's not organic,
What's an example of like artificial content?
Like, you'll have people that are pushing a product and it's just like the situation which the product's being used, like it doesn't seem like you can almost tell they did it like when
like a hunting product. We've had clients before say we only have a budget for during the summertime. We need you to get the content during the summertime, but we need hunting content. Yeah. And so we're like, okay, so the grass is green,
right, it's all
everything's grown up. It's clearly not fall and winter time, right? And so like being able to come back to them and say, that's not very authentic. People aren't going to resonate with that. It's not going to, your audience won't connect with that. They'll see right through it. Right. It's like you stage a hunt in the middle of the summer. All of a sudden the authenticity is right out the window. And, you know, it's kind of up to us to try to like push back on that being a good idea. But like, it's not, I mean, it's, you see it out there, right? Like there's
everywhere.
You have to do it.
Seen
But
people
like, there's
holding bows wrong or drawing back a compound with a hand without a release.
Yeah,
Or
little
guys
things
will
like
use, I mean,
that.
I've heard of stories of guys using taxidermy to like as like actual animals in the hunt, and like they just place it. I mean, it's like stuff like that. It's
like unfreezing birds in
Yeah.
the fridge, like or freezer to like
So, I mean,
set up
and
a shoot in the summertime, like
No
just
way.
fake
yeah.
stuff like that. Yeah.
No, it's, I mean, and
I guess it's no different to, you know, McDonald's like doing their photo shoots where they're like gluing the
Gluing
burgers
the burger,
together and
Yeah.
like it's completely fake.
have steam behind it. Yeah. Well, no, it's all, I mean, obviously to the consumer's eye, it all looks good. I mean, it sparks something, but I like going off of like turning passion into business. I think the best example, and I use this all the time because I think it's one of the moments when like I realized that our team was just phenomenal, is we're also passionate about chasing waterfowl and just hunting in general. And it was most of our owners at the time. We went up and freelanced this trip, and it was for one of our big brands. We were releasing a shotgun, and it was all of us just going and doing our thing, like doing what we're really good at, which is just putting these hunts together, going to somewhere we've never been, getting these hunts together, and then capturing it.
Yeah.
And with that, it's just such organic, like content that a lot of the demographic can relate to. Like I think having all like our business backgrounds, all of our different backgrounds that come in and play into Split Read, but then having the passion that you're talking about, where you can send us somewhere with one of our team, with somebody with a camera, and we can deliver and give you some really, really organic and not artificial content that is, I mean, people can relate to it. Like, wow, that's amazing.
It's
like,
not a forced smile.
And it's
not
nice
a
having
forced smile,
like having the producers and directors that we have are extremely talented, because what they essentially do is throw microphones on all of us and just say, y'all just hunt. I'm literally not here. And then they're just filming all day long, all night long. The camera never turns off. And then they're able to it's not like, hey, I need you to go, go do this. Run. It's not like a bunch of stage stuff. It's just like, do what y'all do. And then they just keep it running. And then they go do magic with it after the fact and create these stories that are extremely authentic. People connect with it. And so that helps. I mean, like you said, it helps with like, you get burned out if it's just stage shoot after stage shoot after stage shoot. Like that does burn you out. And like we've had to do them. Like you have to do them.
There's moments where it's like, you need that shot again. Like send the dog.
Right.
Or do something. It's like
you're gonna have
that, but like striving to make it as real as you possibly can, and capturing the moment when, because like on a hunt, the reaction after, say you set like 400 mallards down in the hole, or you have all this stuff coming together, the reaction after that is so genuine and real. You can't recreate that off of an official thing, and that's something the consumer and this person watching is like, wow, like that's awesome. Like I can relate to that. I've had that feeling before. I've been there, and I think that's the big thing, where it's like it's not just shoved down your throat. It's like, wow, these guys are actually like, they probably just talked to that farmer yesterday and they've never been to this spot and they just made it happen. It's like, okay, then here's that product that's just perfectly symbiotic with the production.
It feels real. It feels authentic, and like people can picture themselves in that environment.
And you still have to go get your solo hunts in by yourself. You got to get that in too to keep you safe.
I mean, it's like there's a lot of times when I just want to come out here with my dog and go sit by myself and shoot my 5 mallards and go home. But it's like it's just balancing it. It's still so fun though. I mean, to think we get to go on these trips and shoot a bunch of birds and hang out with people and make cool content for work. Sometimes it's like, kind of like slap yourself and make you feel like it's real.
So you guys had a big win when you produce, a show for Meat Eater. Arguably Meat Eater is kind of the pinnacle of the hunting industry in terms of their exposure, quality of content. Like, how did all of that come about? And like, what was kind of the process to kind of produce a show like that?
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, the show is Duck Camp Dinners. And the first season, the show's created by Chef Jean Paul, who's an outdoor wild game cook. If you've seen the show, and he, came to us, same kind of reason. He saw what we were doing, saw the quality of our, content capabilities, and kind of came to us. I still remember him calling me to this day, saying like, I've got this idea for this show. I want y'all to produce it. Let's go, raise whatever we can to help support the production side of things. That's what we did for the season. First season was just, we had a few brands kind of help pitch in a little bit from a sponsorship standpoint, to at least pay the travel bills in a little bit. I think we still ended up in the red pretty bad, but, we released that. It was a huge hit. And then I guess right after season 1, Jean Paul was talking with Meat Eater about kind of like rolling that concept, that TV show, into their ecosystem, into their brand, having him come on as kind of a wild game cooking contributor at the same time. And so that's kind of the season 2, things got taken to the next level where we, Meat Eater essentially bought the show. And then we were producing it for Meat Eater, which was cool. Like they told us that we were the first production company they've ever worked with outside of their own in-house team. Wow. And that was cool to hear. I mean, that's a big step up, obviously, and a great, chance to build a relationship with them and show them what we're able to do, and fold all those other things in there from a, punctuality, communication, those kind of things, and show them that we're the full package. And we were extremely easy to work with. They just kind of let us rock and roll with it, and that's kind of how it came to be.
Do you think your punctuality helps you because you're waterfowl hunters? Like that's more of a day hunt, being in the media. You're never too far away from your computer or technology in that regard.
I think it makes the like, I always go look at this content like that. These like Sitka ambassadors are making, like in the Yukon or something. Like, I mean, that would be an absolute nightmare sometimes to deal with, like all the equipment, and you're hiking 20 miles and you're in the middle of nowhere.
Charging batteries.
Yeah.
I think we have an advantage in some. I mean, we're always either at a hotel or staying somewhere.
Helps.
It helps. But yeah, I mean, I don't know. I think
it's still easy to keep your computer closed and your phone off.
Still get distracted. There's so much work that goes into these hunts. I mean, it's to somebody who doesn't know it, it's so. I mean, the hunt's great, but like what went in before, after, all that stuff is so much more. So,
when it comes to the marketing, you said it started with an Instagram account. At some point, there's a make it or break it where it's like, oh, we are a legit media marketing company. If the lights go out on social media, because that censorship is something that we constantly face in the outdoor industry, right?
Yeah.
Like, we don't know if all of a sudden Instagram or Facebook's gonna be like, nope, we don't want that anymore. Yeah. What are you guys' safety net in regards to continued production and marketing and all that in regards to?
Yeah, no, that's a good question. We ask ourselves, I mean, we're always thinking ahead like that, prepare for the worst, diversify in order to, potentially, if that ever does come to be, like, how do you diversify your business? So before we get into that, I mean, first and foremost, like, the relationships are still there. The brands will still be relevant, whether it's content you're producing for TV, for website, for magazine. There's still all these outlets that kind of need content to fuel it. So you still kind of have all your relationships in place. And so that the business keeps churning. But as far as like kind of the diversity piece goes, you talk about think about like a website, blogs, newsletters, YouTube, which isn't censored quite as much as Instagram is and Facebook is.
Marketing, news, like catalogs, magazines.
Yeah, they say newspapers dying or dead. But in the hunting world, I mean, dude, I love a tangible magazine.
Yeah.
And absolutely. I mean, like I was gonna say, like if you open a lot of these magazines right now, you'll see our work. I mean, we're outside of we're still
Instagram
on hard copy magazines, catalogs. We're still on websites. We're still on. I think our content spans a lot more than just social media. I mean, I know it does because I mean you can see it, but like he said, the brands, they're still going to wake up every day and they're still going to work and produce products. And there's always going to be something to push that through, I hope. I mean,
So how do you guys stay on, I guess, with your finger on the pulse of censorship and what's kind of happening across, so you can kind of advise your brands that you work with are like, it's probably not going to work, or actually we should push into this direction.
Yeah.
well, we have the talk. Like we've had, like, when I can think of a brand we worked with where they asked if we could have just for like ATF, like no alcohol, tobacco, or firearms in the video. They're a clothing manufacturer. They produce like nice clothing, and we were like, yeah, we can do that. That's no problem. So having those talks and stuff, I mean,
Well, we had the same thing with Trek.
Yeah.
You know, we're trying to expand into the hunting industry, but
your consumer is still
our consumers, you know,
Broad, yeah.
it's a broad customer base, and a lot of them aren't actually into, you know, they don't want to see a dead deer in the back of a pickup
or
truck,
a gun,
or things like that. And so we had to be kind of selective in kind of how we censored it. And that part of that was a distribution consideration. Kind of where are we putting these ads out? Where are we kind of putting this content? But then the other room is like, what kind of story we kind of tell that lines up with our brand values?
Yeah.
And I think that's a big thing is distribution, is like going over with the client, where do you want to see this content go? If they're going to go on, I mean, we produce, short form, vertical, like real stuff for people. And like if you were to take that and put it on TikTok, for example, which is a large platform now, that's going to be flagged. If you took someone with a gun or an animal getting hit by like a bullet or a shell, like it's like that's going to be taken down instantly. And you have to have those talks. It's like, okay, well, if you're going to put on Instagram actually has a pretty solid, like they allow. I mean, if you can see a lot of stuff through the hunting world on Instagram. TikTok, no. YouTube, you get demonetized. It's just having that conversation. Where are you going to put this content? Okay, have you thought about this? Have you thought about that? We want to make sure we do this. I think it's just having the conversation before production starts.
Yeah. And you just got to be cognizant of what you're putting out there. Like at the end of the day, hunting's legal in the United States. It's legal in a lot of places. And as long as you're respectfully putting content out that is a legal sport or a legal hobby or passion or whatever it is, you just got to be cognizant of how you're putting it out there. And like we've all seen the stuff people put out there, and it's just like,
why
you do this, you're like, what? That is makes things, you know, why would you ever put that on social media?
Now, are
so you got to always ask yourself that kind of question.
But are you talking about from a business standpoint or more like personal hunting
both?
accounts?
No, I mean both, because I mean, obviously all of us, people know that we are also with Split Read, like on our personal side, like you can't be, the stuff that gets posted online by people sometimes, it makes you cringe. And it's like,
Hunting's political.
Yeah, it is.
It's not even that. It's like, what people don't realize about the outdoor space and hunters in the sense is that, like, I hate, like if I am hunting and an animal is crippled, wounded or something like that, I hate it. And my goal is not to, obviously you want to make it as easy, quick. We love the animal. That's why hunters are the largest conservationists in the world. We love we respect the animal. We do all this stuff. And you have those people that put out that content where it's just like, why do you have to do that? Like, why did that have to come out? And it's like, now that's fuel to the fire. And now let's say your big YouTube, your TikTok, they're going to use that as like, okay, we can never see that again. Now we're going to get stricter and stricter and stricter, where us posting a reel with just a glimpse of a shotgun or any kind of gun, gone. Like that's, and like, it's hard to believe, but we're shooting ourselves in the foot a lot of times in the hunting world. Like, it's just like anything else. Like if you're kind of a reflection of others around you. Yeah. And you have these bad eggs in the world, and they just, they post stuff. Like, it's just, why did you have to post that?
Yeah.
It doesn't help anybody.
So digressing back to the very beginning when you're talking about, fly fishing as far as marketing goes and advertising was like light years ahead of the hunting world because they drag their feet. Do you feel like, I'll say like the old Remingtons, Brownings, like established old timey brands were holding the industry back because like, I'm not throwing them under the bus, but I guess maybe I am. I'm not intentionally doing it. Like established brands aren't the new and up and coming. You guys, haven't been in the business. You're younger. You guys both in your 20s still?
30.
Yeah, I'm 29.
Okay, so are those marketing departments of those brands ran by 50-year-old, 60-year-old Scotch drinking guys in leather chairs, and or is it the youthfulness of what you guys deliver that sets you apart, and that your consumers as well, on top of
And I think Chris and I had a really good chat about this, I think last week or a couple weeks ago, is I think what has happened, at least in the hunting space, fly fishing too. I mean, like he said, fly fishing has always been light years ahead of the hunting world. And I think we're starting to see it catch up and kind of hit this equilibrium where these young, you look back and let's just use waterfowling, for example, the technology through the space it was so slow creeping. And then once you had these large scale social media where you could get stuff out and this younger generation came, it just blew this industry up. You have innovations now, you have you have the brand awareness, you have all this stuff that is, back in the day, everybody would just buy what they knew. I'm going to go buy an 870, a box of Federal, Blue Label. It's just which is awesome. I think my 870 is sitting in the corner somewhere. Everything, there's timeless things, but when our generation, I think, came into the picture, and even the generation, the decade ahead of us, the industry really started to just take off. And it's you have all these guys who are taking, I think we talked about it, my dad just hunted. He didn't and we now it's become such a passion and such there's so much more to it, where this generation's taking it to the next level. The innovations that are coming out now, the technology, the conversations even about how to hunt these birds, how to hunt the deer, the elk, all this stuff, and these different conversations. I think that's driving the industry too.
Yeah.
It's progressing it so much because you have so many people that are either I don't believe that hunting's a dying sport. I really don't.
I don't either.
When we're so immersed in it, everybody's the number of hunters is dropping this. I'm dude, I think compared to when I was, let's say 18 to now, I think hunting's a living breed. I think it's every year growing.
All you have to do is look at the pressure of hunters, where you go hunt.
Well, we saw a massive shift during COVID, right?
Yeah.
So
especially
we saw across the industry, there was a 26% increase of people entering the outdoor industry that hadn't previously been there, and that could be across camping, hunting, fishing, golf, action sports, whatever kind of their niche is. But one of the really interesting things is that as we kind of look forward and into our economy, and we're staring down the barrel of a recession and things like that, the cool thing is a lot of those people who came into the industry, they haven't left. They've picked up golf, or they've picked up hunting, or they've picked up fly fishing or whatever. And they've invested the thousands of dollars of gear, and they've picked it up as a passion. And so while, typically as you go into recession, you typically see kind of a reprieve of activity or numbers. But I think what we'll see is more of a normalization, because, we were growing at, I think it was about 6.5% per year as an industry, but then we saw this huge shoot, and that's not sustainable. But millions of people have now entered the industry, and
they're not just dropping out.
These are young or old people. They are from multiple different political sways. It's a full gamut of different types of people who've come into the industry and found passion in the outdoors. And so I'm really bullish on the kind of the future of the industry, because I know that there's growth there. And while numbers growth might plateau over the next couple of years, there's so much opportunity for brands to kind of get in and get that exposure, and start to kind of grow their business.
That's kind of what I was going to say, is you have the growth from a consumer based standpoint. Well, that's where you have the brands come in too. And back to your question of back before, you have the old school brands, the same guys. They don't need to be on social media. They don't need to have a presence in the media world. They just have their demand. They've always had. They're the kings of what in their little segments of the hunting space, whether it's guns, decoys, whatever it is. But then you have brands start entering the space fueled by marketing and digital marketing, advertisement, social media, and they're gobbling up market share.
Right.
And these guys they can't just sit back and watch that happen. 5-10% market share. They've got to act and have a presence themselves. And so that's kind of where you start seeing this change of mentality of kind of the older guys.
I don't think I've actually met a marketing director for any business that's in their 40s or above. I think all these companies are, honestly, most marketing directors I see are like 26, 27.
Well, it's the shift. I mean, like what you said with COVID, I mean, I think a lot of people ended up sitting in their homes being like, what can I go do during this, whatever we're going through, that I can get away from people, I can have control over it. I think people realize, I think we go through life realizing like, we're just like, people go to work, wake up, go to work, come home. Wake up. And then once they had all this freedom when everything's locked down and stuff, they're like, I can go do something other than sit here. And what's the best thing to do? Go fish. Go grab a fly rod. Go hunt. Go grab a bow and go up in the mountains. Like
Get
all this stuff.
Yeah.
I'm the biggest opponent of you need passion. I mean, my dad's preaching my whole life. If you don't have passion, you don't have nothing. You got to have something you love to do. Because else you just like sit there and just let life go by. And I think that realization was realized through COVID.
Yeah.
And I mean, our channels just exploded during that time because everybody's consuming so much more. They want to learn. They want to do all this stuff. And I think it's just, I mean, the industry's, in the last 10 years, it's just been out of this world.
Yeah, so obviously your social media has been kind of the biggest driver of that. And also the shifting away from kind of, in the hunting space, it's like, watching DVDs of people going to, Africa or, across North America and magazine content. And now it's kind of moved online to more real-time YouTube channels and we've seen the influencer space grow. So if you were to look at like kind of the shift that's happened, where do you see the opportunities? So say, as an example, I run a brand that is, we do hiking boots. We're doing $10 million in revenue a year. We're looking at kind of our marketing budget. Let's say it's $500,000 a year. Where is the opportunity? Because,
I got a good answer for this one.
You could, apart from giving it a split read and saying, have at it. But if you were to look at, all the opportunities, you've got all of your, traditional routes that you could take. You've got kind of industry events and ways to kind of get exposure. You've got the influencer side of things. You've got the social content of whether you produce yourself or you look at then sponsor-led content and partnering with a company like Split Read to look at brand integrations into existing content. Like where do you see kind of all of that going?
Like my first inclination as a response to that is, as a brand, like having a backbone, making a statement on what your brand truly is, and whether that's like Meat Eater did a great example of that is Meat Eater, the wild game cooking, field to plate, right? Like eat what you kill. That whole culture fueled their brand. Whether it's the conservation side of things, religion, on and on and on, is like figure out who you want to be as a brand, make a statement and stick to it and have a backbone about it, because there's always going to be somebody who disagrees with whatever that statement is. You're always going to have the people who are trying to pick that apart or whatever it is. But I think picking out what your vision or what your mission is as a brand and then just sticking to it no matter what
regardless
you might hear
of the bad times as well, right?
Yeah,
This goes back to staying true to yourself, right? And like people will gravitate towards that. There will always be people who gravitate towards who you are, who your brand is, and those are the people you care about. And the people who are haters or don't try to break that down, you keep the blinders on, and
they're not your customers. They're not going to buy your product
exactly.
Anyway.
Go somewhere else. That's the mentality you have to have.
Yeah.
Ultimate metaphor of hunt your hunt.
Yeah.
Right. Is like, in marketing, everyone wants to like, oh, I want this. And having goals is very important and critical. However, I think the ultimate metaphor of hunting is you enjoy the journey of the process, not the end destination.
Yeah.
Like if it's just about collecting ducks and having that string of picture at the end, it's like, okay, what did it do for the soul? What did it do for my livelihood? What did it do for my company?
Right.
Versus enjoying the process and really
Yeah.
riding the ride.
Yeah. Like what about that process that drives you? Create your brand around that. That's back to the passion of it. If you can drive a brand around your own passion, people will resonate with that, and that's how you set yourself apart. Back to your original question, that's the people that will succeed versus the people who are. You talk about politics earlier. If you're always left, you're always right. You're always trying to cater to whatever that next comment is, whatever that next opinion is. Just stick your course, and the rest will be history.
Yeah.
Well, you see so many brands. Like, I mean, I look at like we were talking about, like the old, like the brands that like the backbone of the hunting world. I mean, your Remingtons, your Brownings, all these companies that have produced these products that will stand the test of time. And you see so many brands leave that. Like the 870 is the best example. I mean, it's the workhorse of shotguns, and watching that go away from where it was, and like, let's just say production changed and quality changes. It's like, why? You're making such a great product, and it's gone now. Like, and keeping that consistency, and I mean, elevating and not going down, and you're going to keep going up, and it's just like, you see so many like margins when people pay for quality, especially in the hunting world. People will spend the extra money to buy quality. People, I mean, look at people spend $500 on a jacket in this industry. I mean, it's
buy
crazy.
once, cry once.
Yeah. So I mean, you gotta think your consumer. If they're not going to buy it, you're not going after them. There's always a consumer that'll buy. If you prove that it's a good product, and you stay in your lane, people are going to consume.
So when coming to staying in the lane, because hunting is political or very polarizing at least, and we all have our own personal individual beliefs, knowing that you have a platform and the ability to create a message shared however you want and put it out there, do you ever have a personal like, oh, I really want to say this, or I want to use our platform for this, or is it, because there's the old saying by the World War II pastor, Dr. Martin Nieholm. He's like, first I came for the trade unionists. I didn't say anything because I wasn't a trade unionist. Then they came for the communists, and I didn't say anything. Then they came for the whatever, and then they came for me, and no one was left there to stand. Because hunting is such a polarizing topic, do you ever feel like mixing the personal side of things with the business? Is there a way to do that, or is it always just, hey, back off, hands off? And
I think the consumer in the industry, the consumer of our content, I mean, it's such a big industry, but at the same time, it's such a small industry. I mean, everybody really knows everybody, especially with social media now. But the ideals and like the views on things, it's pretty well. I mean, if you're out there hunting and doing this stuff, I think everybody kind of is on board with that. Yeah, hunters are the largest conservationists. Hunting's important for just wildlife in general. All this stuff, I think everybody's on board. Where politics, they might view different on that, but when it comes to hunting, the views are pretty aligned. And I think, like the stuff we put out, like we'll put out controversial stuff that happens, and like legislation, bills, all this stuff. We'll be like the first one to post on it. And I mean, there'll be differing views, but at the same time, if it's gonna hurt the industry or hurt the thing we love, everybody's gonna be on board to strike it down. And I think like we're in a good place because the mindset of the consumer is pretty uniform. Everybody kind of is on the same page about a lot of things. You don't find that in a lot of industries. I mean, and say you're in like the shoe world. I mean, everybody needs shoes, but if you're in the hunting world, everybody's obviously going and hunting. I mean, it's obviously, and it is
with the intention that
something's going to die.
Whether it's food, whatever.
You're going to take a life, which in an animal, and consume it. I mean, and obviously, everybody, if you're on board with that, like you're on board with a lot of things that are behind the scenes. So I think,
and you gotta be careful too, like to not. I mean, in my opinion, there's kind of like they're two worlds, like the politics and then the polarization of hunting itself. And you don't necessarily want to bring them all together into one big, what I mean? So like kind of having like Taylor's saying, like all of us as people who are passionate about hunting all genuinely feel, you know, the same way about a lot of topics. And so being the ones to like be, you know, not be scared to throw a certain topic out there to start a conversation, right? And like you're going to get mixed conversations or comments or feedback or whatever, but in general, those topics are good to throw out there and have people start talking about it and have them voice their opinions on this or that. And you'll even see like in comment sections, there's people who are like, you know, talking trash to each other.
They start their own thread.
They got their own thread, and there's 17 paragraphs. Six days later, still talking to each other, and you'll see that even towards the end, they'll start. Yeah, you're right about that. You're right about that, and they'll start like they hated each other in the first 2 comments, and then 6 days later, 15 paragraphs later, they're now seeing eye to eye on something, and they've kind of like I think that's cool to see. Like when if you every now and again you'll catch yourself be like, oh, I see this thread going on, and then they're all of a sudden they might end up going hunting together the next year, and they're best friends. Like stuff like that happens from controversial topics. Yeah, and it's crazy to see.
I think one of the craziest stories, I mean, that I've seen in like a in just like a, let's say a political to hunting thing is, what was it, a year or 2 ago, the United States federal government put this legislation through where hunters in Canada couldn't bring back the meat from their hunt up in Canada to the United States because of bird flu, avian influenza.
This past fall.
Yeah, so this past fall they put this whole press release out. Hunters are no longer able to bring their waterfowl meat back to the United States because of the transmission of bird flu. What they forgot is these birds fly across the federal border. Yeah, these birds fly across the federal border and are going to come no matter what. We're just bringing them in a cooler.
Yeah.
They're going to fly themselves.
With the disease.
Yeah, with the disease. I mean, we saw, unprecedented amounts of avian flu last year. It's going to happen. We can't, honestly, hunting will help it. And then they reversed it. Like a few weeks later, they came out saying like that they didn't honestly didn't think it through.
Yeah.
Because, let's say, all these guys are bringing back
They did reverse it 2 weeks, probably from our post.
Yeah. We like to think it was because of split read. We started the conversation early on it. And, that was a general consensus across the board how stupid this legislation is, because these birds are crossing federal borders no matter what. They're migratory.
Yeah.
They're going to go down to Mexico, some of them, and they're going to cross the entire country and spread it wherever they want to spread it.
That speaks to the disconnect.
That's the
reality versus the politicians.
So,
Interesting. I want to shift gears a little bit and talk about advertising and distribution of content. So when I think about the advertising world, again, there's so many different avenues. So, when we talk about doing brand partnerships, we're looking to integrate product into content, and that might be distributed. So when we did the deal with you guys, like it was content that was going to be distributed through your channels, but then we could also turn that into kind of 30-second, 60-second ads that we would then push onto our channels and split it up and kind of we could then do our own A/B testing and kind of work on what works for our audience, and then use that to basically drive sales.
Yep.
There's a funny adage in the advertising industry. It's like 50% of my advertising worked, but we're just not sure which 50%.
Yeah.
And when we start to look at kind of how you guys think about content distribution, advertising distribution, so because you work with big brands who are selling high ticket items, but you also work with other brands who are selling lower ticker items, right? And so some are going to look at it more transactional. Some of them are going to look at it more, I'm looking to build brand presence and awareness for, a Can-Am. Because, it's pretty rare that, someone would jump on, see a short video of, Can-Am, be like, I'm going to swipe my credit card right now.
We've seen it.
I bet you have. I bet you have.
We've on our platform, we've seen it.
But in terms of, how that's... that kind of branding versus kind of transactional. How do you guys think about advising your clients on kind of the post-production and now talking about the distribution of content and advertising that comes off that?
Yeah, no, it's a good question. I would say like whether you're an established massive brand or an up-and-coming brand, you both still have opportunities to reach new customers. So the short answer is the distribution piece is key. Whether you're an established brand like Browning, for example, there's still areas of the outdoor world. There's still people who aren't thinking Browning, who they can still reach because they're activating distribution beyond their own networks, beyond their own channels. On the flip side, you have up and coming brands who have no distribution, which the ocean's a little bigger for them because they know distribution anywhere can get their brand more recognizable, and people starting to turn their heads to see this brand name over and over again. I got to go check this brand out. What is this brand? So I think the distribution piece is a key ingredient to all marketing and advertising, to all campaigns. And that's kind of been like where we've, it's been nice to have that piece to it where, yes, I'll always say like the quality content and the storytelling and all that is pivotal. But if you can't get it in front of people's eyes, right? Like who's watching it, who's consuming it, who are you trying to influence to go and make a purchase, right? Yeah. So like it comes together in a package. You got to have the storytelling, but you also have to have the ability to get it in front of a lot of people, and not just once, but every day, every week, whatever it is. The frequency of it is that's when you start to see a brand name grow. Like you said, it's hard from a quantitative standpoint to track what content and media does and storytelling does in order like to track that into actual sales and what that means. And like I'll have these conversations all the time with people. Well, if I make this and this and make a film and this, what's my ROI? Like how many sales am I going to have? And I've had this same conversation a million times. It's not necessarily possible to track if Joe Schmo in Arkansas sees a video of Yeti on Instagram, and then he sees it again, and then he sees his friend posting about Yeti, or some fisherman or hunter that posting about Yeti, on and on for months and months. And he gets a birthday check for $300. I need a cool, like where he's going to go take that check and go to a store or go online and buy a Yeti because that brand has been resonating in his mind for months. But you can't track that. You can't track that sale to what you've done. So I'm always trying to like explain to people it's the longevity of your brand, the longevity of your business is all about the building the brand authentically through media, through content creation, but through consistently getting that out there to a lot of people. And like it's all those pieces that kind of have to fall into place, and then down the line you have influenced that person to make that purchase whenever it may be. It might be 2 years from now, but you can't necessarily correlate it, but you do know, and everyone does know now, most people do know that the brand itself, the vision, the mission, whatever that statement they're trying to make and rallying behind it resonates with people, and they'll go and that's kind of how it grows from there.
A question that I have in regards to that is YouTube, for example. You post a video out there for marketing purposes that's organic integration into your content. That video doesn't go away. It's not like old magazines that stack up in the corner of someone's bathroom and then they're like, I never really look at it again. So like the paper advertising in that regard is kind of like a one and done. Yeah. But as a podcast host, I have episode 2, 3, 4 are still being listened to, and different sponsors that I had back then are still getting hits off of my content. That is years of separation different.
You'll see a comment from something you put out 6 years ago, and then you see a comment from yesterday and they just found it. Exactly.
It's a really good point. When I think about brands, you've got the opportunity, and I see lots of brands who make the fatal mistake of thinking that for me to build a brand, it's all about a kind of a flash in the pan. We're going to produce this one video. We're going to spend a couple grand on it, and that's kind of the thing that's going to make our business. When I think about brand, there's longevity to that, and when it's that feeling or perception of a product or a service. And when I'll use the example of like Patagonia. Like they've done over the years an incredible job. I mean, they're a very mission-based business. But what they've done is you think of Patagonia, you're automatically associating that brand name with the mountains. You're all with high quality products, and that's something that they built over decades.
Decades.
It's
That's
not
the key.
it's they had the vision from the start that they're not trying to just build a kind of quick flip type thing where we're going to go $0 to $1 million or 0 to X and really quickly and kind of cash out. I mean, we all see the Instagram ads of like the latest bloody wallet or pair of socks that don't slip down or whatever, and those are really kind of transactional little sales. That's not brand.
No.
Brand is something that you're going to build over time and establish, and it's perception of quality and that feeling that you have when you have that product. It's it's that feeling of like who I am when I have that product with me.
Personal connection of it.
Yeah.
And I think with us, like we have a company that a few stores where we've taken companies, we've sat down and been like, with the company, how can we grow your brand and spotlight what you guys are doing, and like you guys have a great product, let's build something around it that's going to last time, like go for a while here and keep going and keep going. And we have stories where we help companies, they blow up, and it's just like a lot of it is just strategizing. Okay, how are we going to do this? What are the outlets going to be? What is this? How are we going to? We need to get to this person or this like group of people, and it's cool to watch because if you believe in it,
the quality of the product is important.
Yeah,
that's why people keep coming back over and over again.
And a big thing for us is like obviously being in the industry, like all of us hunting and outside of this is like you got to believe in the product too. You got to have just going and like, oh yeah, we'll take whatever that is and we'll try and sell it. Like no, we got to like. If we see a use and a need and a place in the market for it, and that we would go to the store and buy that off the shelf, we'll go and it just
we've turned a lot of money down over the years, being like,
no,
your money's great, but this will actually hurt our reputation.
Well, that was actually one of the first things we talked about when we talked about bringing one of our brands over to your agency. It was that perception of it was almost like us convincing you guys that we're a brand worth taking on, and I actually really respected that about what you do, because you don't kind of pimp yourself out to just the cash grab or the product that is not relevant or it's not something that you would actually use or more importantly could believe in and get behind.
Well, you lose credibility. It's like, and you have somebody go buy, like say we put a product out that's junk.
Yeah.
And somebody goes and buys it, and they're like, and that just keeps happening. It's like, okay, well, I'm not going to listen to them anymore.
Yeah.
And our credibility just goes. And what are we then?
Yeah.
A company's built upon trust.
You still got to. As much as we want to be, like that check looks great. It's like, well, the product doesn't make any sense. It serves no purpose, or this or that. It's like we can't put that out to our audience or in front of our clients and be like, okay, well. Here you guys go. I don't know if you'll like it or not.
Here's another one. You got to buy this. Swipe up and buy this over and over.
And there's so many. Like you said, like those Instagram ads, like it's in every industry. The wallets and stuff. It's just, it's like obviously those guys aren't trying to build a brand. They're just trying to get a sale and on to the next one. But it's like you got to have some kind of strategy. And I think that's what we do well at is sitting with brands and saying, okay, what are your goals?
Yeah.
Because if you're going to be you have to have goals and a plan. Obviously, we'll help you get there, but we got to understand what they want to do and what they want to see, and we could obviously shift and say, okay, well, we think you should do this and have a conversation. But I think that's where a lot of our success comes from is being intentional and being a place where they can say, okay, well, how is it? Does this work well, or we think we should do this? And
So, as a brand today, if you were to take of all the options of all the things that I could do as a brand today, what would you say is some of the top most effective things that you're seeing? I get every brand's going to be different in terms of their audience and target, but if I had the option to launch my own podcast, a educational YouTube channel, or team up with influencers to drive, that kind of social perception of my product. What are you seeing kind of in the outdoor industry today that is really kind of moving the needle of kind of customer perception?
I think you see, like, when I go back to innovation, like I look at like what my dad hunted with. It's hanging on the wall over here. It's an old herder's decoy. And I look at like what's happened in the last 10 years to products like that. I mean, being able to innovate and being immersed in your industry, or in, like, say, like if you're in the golf industry, being a golfer, an avid golfer, having a passion, knowing where there's a need in the industry and innovating. I think that's been, just from my point of view, watching companies that have intention to better the experience for the person once they buy that product.
Yeah.
If you're just gonna be a weight on somebody's back, or something that just lays in the bed of the truck and they never touch, I think finding a problem, building a product that fixes that problem is a solution. And I mean, I think if it's a solution that needs to be fixed, I mean, there's so many things that come out where it's like, I mean, that is enough. Like, okay, yeah, that's nice, but I don't need it. If there's like an actual, like, I mean, I'll use an example, like the spinning wing decoy in waterfowl hunting. The biggest innovation in waterfowl hunting. It's literally a decoy that looks like a bird's wings flapping.
It's like the Mojos.
Yeah, Mojos.
Yeah.
The Mojo was the most revolutionary thing that ever came out in waterfowl hunting, because it literally resembles a duck sitting there backpedaling over the hole. And when it first came out, I mean, I hear the old timer stories, when you flip that switch, like, and it's like, it still happens, but like, those are the kind of innovations that are
Change the game.
groundbreaking. It's like, that still happens. I mean, I look at like the big game world, like building a tripod that weighs like 15 ounces. There it goes in your backpack and you know it's there. Yeah, for like stuff like that.
Carbon fiber hunting packs, so you
Exactly.
pack out your loads
Yeah.
and not have this
Not
extra
metal
weight.
frame. Yeah.
One of the things that really sets the outdoor industry apart across like kayaking, rock climbing, like anything, is that it's based upon companies who created their company because they're consumers themselves.
Exactly.
I think it's fascinating.
Yeah.
Like a flooring guy is like, I'm going to create a flooring, because the world wants it, I guess. But ultimately, we create a need because I wanted it.
Well, there's so many guys, you look at these stories of these brands over the years, and like, they'll put out like a video, like the story of the brand. It's like, oh, I used to be an HVAC guy, but I hunted all the time, and I realized I built this in my garage, and now I mass produce it, and it's one of the best products in the industry. But there's so many stories, and that's what's cool about hunting, like you said, is a lot of these are derived from people actually being out
Personal
in the field
needs.
or in the space and saying, that would make my life so much easier, or that would improve the hunt so much more. They go in their garage, tinker with some things, go out with a prototype, put it to use, it works, and then they produce it. I mean, it's just,
The rebar Mojo pole I was sending your dad.
yeah.
All the Mojos are great, but the poles that they are put into the ground
break.
are malleable, and in frozen ground
Snaps.
they break, and you can't get them into the ground. So we're like this little rebar prototype of where you can hammer it with a sledgehammer into frozen ground, and then put your Mojo into that. Little things like that. That's
Right.
maybe down the road for us, but
Yeah, but you gotta the ground freezes and like up here, and like you may have stuff you have to put in the ground, and get it in the ground is not going to work. So doing something like that
it works in the marsh in the southeast, but up here you can't. It's frozen solid.
So being a consumer and working in the advertising marketing space, how much is the why or the story behind a brand important compared to the product filling a need?
I think
equally.
Yeah, equally.
I would say equally. Yeah.
I think there's so much behind. I mean, I think a brand having a story and having and putting out the reason behind their product is so huge, because somebody can relate to that and say, okay, well, I've been there before. I've felt that.
Yeah. That's
I've
the
had
fuel,
that
that's fuel
issue.
on the fire.
Yeah.
Back to like, what's your who are you? What's your statement? What's your story?
And,
That's fuel to the need.
And I think being a consumer and having been the person who's like, man, I wish there was this product, and then I think they're symbiotic, and I think they go equal in the importance factor.
Yeah.
So I mean, yeah.
I think you're right. I think it's both simultaneously because you also face that you might have the best product in the world, but if no one knows about it, they're not going to buy it, right? And I can't tell you how many products we've seen across multiple industries, but the outdoor industry, where it's actually not the best product that wins in the end. Yeah. It's the one that's the best marketed. Yeah. It's the one that has done the best job of actually building the brand.
Yeah.
And
marketing, powerful.
Yeah, and people have come across on social, or they've seen an influencer, rocking that product.
It gets the job done, but it's not the highest, most expensive quality product ever either.
Yeah. Right, exactly. And so it absolutely is. So you obviously need a quality product.
Yeah.
But it's that brand that's attached to it.
Yeah.
That's what kind of really drives that success.
Yeah. And another, before I forget this, to your question of like, what separates you too is something that a lot of people don't talk about is customer service and the ability to, hey, if you're a new brand in whatever space it is in the outdoors and you don't have a direct line of, if something goes wrong with no matter what you are, there's faulty products, right? And if I am a new brand buyer and I happen to get the unlucky faulty product, I need to be able to immediately talk to somebody, whether it's customer service. I mean, totally. we talked about Facebook just having an email that just goes into the abyss. You never hear back.
Horrible.
As a new brand, like they can get away with it because they're Facebook, but as a new brand, you can't have that infrastructure. You've got to be able to have someone who can pick up the phone, call that person and say, send it back, return in 48 hours. Like, I'm so sorry this happened. And like, that customer service piece will separate
and then
you from
that builds the brand
trust.
and the trust and all that.
Exactly.
I just had Dustin Coleman, the owner of Coltac Hunting Gear, on my podcast recently, and he specifically said, he goes, when you call Coltac, and this is a fascinating thing in the outdoor industry, is more often than not, when you're calling these companies, you're getting someone in America, and you're getting almost a high up person within that company rather than being shipped overseas to the Philippines or India or something like that. He said, I want my call center, that's a loose term. He goes, when someone calls a company, they're either getting me or one of my first 2 employees that I've ever been with the company. And when we have problems with products, we actually want to hear, like, how did you go about breaking this? How did you go about ruining it? Because I thought, from my perspective, that wasn't going to be an issue. And then hearing that and taking feedback from the consumer and then being like, dude, fascinating. Thanks for, I apologize that you were my test subject in that regard. Not that you are a full-on test subject, but okay, so that's a failure point.
Yeah, and it helps you innovate too. The more you have, the better customer service you have, the more you are open to feedback and truly getting on the front lines to understand what the feedback is, the more you can innovate and the better you can be.
Yeah. Well, think how many people that, like, if say I call a company and say the product fails, I call the company, no return call. If I do get a call, it's not help at all. I'm going to go tell people about that.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Take it to Google reviews.
Yeah, I'm infuriated. But if they remedy it and go above and beyond, I'm going to tell everybody that was awesome experience.
Yeah.
They replaced it. They made it better. They listened to me. They asked me what went wrong.
Gave me a cell phone number. I'm going to start calling that guy direct.
Does Chick-fil-A make the best chicken sandwich? Subjective.
Jury's out.
Conveniently, yes.
Not on a Sunday.
Right. But what separates Chick-fil-A?
Yeah.
Their customer service.
Yeah.
Hey, have a great day. Thanks for being here.
My pleasure.
My pleasure. Yes, absolutely.
No, I love watching the videos of like the Instagram videos of like the Chick-fil-A employee like sprinting around
in the rain.
They're in their little box.
Yeah. I mean,
where they go through the most like insane weather conditions just to make sure that someone has the best day.
They have the experience that they expect every single time from Chick-fil-A.
Yeah.
Yep.
And that's all, what, in my opinion, what sets them
look at the brand they've built.
Oh, I mean, I saw an example. So back in Australia, there was a bank, and they had a good reputation for their customer service. Anyway, there was a lady that lived in our city, and I can't remember how I heard about this story, but it's a true story. It was like a Friday afternoon, and she rang the bank and she said, look, my car's not working properly. Can someone come to my house? Because I need to get this transaction done. I'm not sure how to do it. She's an older lady. And long story short, the weather was insane. There was a huge storm coming through. There was flooding on the roads. Anyway, this bank manager came out and all the way out to her house and did the transaction and kind of helped her out. He didn't have to do that. He could have just been like, no, bugger off. It's a Friday afternoon. I'm going home. But that made her day. She told a couple of people who had huge family offices. They ended up moving about $200 million of their accounts over to that bank, off the back of hearing something that this person did and how he kind of
it ties it into trust, right? A brand is tied to trust. If you can trust them and what they're going to deliver upon, then you're going to, dude, that restaurant last night was phenomenal.
Yeah.
Next time you're in town, you got to try it.
You get one shot.
Experience that.
It's just like a restaurant. You get one shot at a restaurant. You have a bad experience, you're not going back.
Yeah.
So many options. It's just like in a product. Like if I go buy something and it sucks, I'm never going to buy that again.
Yes.
And if it sucks and I call them and they make it better, remedy the situation.
Customer service can overcome a crappy product.
It can.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, no, I mean, there's so many brands out there that like I will call and it's like, wait, is this like are you the owner of the company? Like, yeah, I mean, I'm the owner, the accountant,
the janitor.
The janitor. Yeah.
So,
It's like, yeah.
Does anything overcome crappy marketing though?
I mean, there is products out there with terrible marketing, but the product's awesome.
If it's quality enough, the word of mouth and the quality.
I mean, you look at
can overcome it.
There's so many products that are like timeless that like they're not even websites, but you buy them in a big box store and they are still the same as they were back in the day, and they don't have any marketing, but it's just word of mouth. And there are products that have stood through that time. And
but can you imagine if they did? It's like it's the full package. Like you can shine if you're the best in one bucket or the other, you can still shine. But when you've got the full package from quality to customer service to a brand and a backbone, like you put it all together and then you put consistent marketing and advertising behind that to showcase it to the world. That's when you're around for decades and decades to come. So that's what Patagonia is a good example of.
At Split Read, do you guys target specific companies because you're like, dude, I love your product, but your marketing is not that good? And I don't know, maybe that's not an appropriate question.
No, it is 100%. Like, or you see like a place they could improve.
Yeah.
Like the biggest thing is the reel, like the new like fad of the reels, Instagram reels. Like so many companies were so behind on that, and like we were really good at like saying, we saw the engagement on these reels. It was like, what? 3 million people saw this on a channel with 15,000 followers. And you're like, okay, well, we need to tell people about this and start producing stuff like this because we see the success in it, and getting people on board. Like, we need to start doing this or directing them towards that. And then, I mean, obviously the brands that we know and love, like, we love working with them. I mean, it's obviously it's a dream because we believe in their product, but there's always room for improvement.
Yeah. So for brands trying to get into the outdoor space, what advice would you have in terms of like, this is the future, this is where the industry is going, and this is how you can kind of make your dent on whatever sector you're in? Obviously, we talked about authentic stories, having a good quality product, having customer service that kind of backs up your promises.
Yeah, I mean, I think like kind of answers that question, right? Like, if you're an up and coming brand, not every brand has these huge budgets to support the full package, right? Like, you don't get the full package without some capital and a budget to do that, right? And so, I guess a piece of advice for brands who have one or have a couple of the pieces to the puzzle, but they want to make a splash in the outdoor industry or hunting or fishing or whatever it is get very focused and targeted on where's an area that I can move the needle, whether that's a demographic, whether that's a specific product or whether that's really investing fully in one of those buckets. Where can I move the needle and go all in on that?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
That's a question to build on that is trademarks or patents. Do you counsel companies in regards to that? Like, would you recommend companies patent a product before they come to market with it? Because a lot of the stuff is like, I saw a need for it, and all of a sudden I created it, and I'm at a trade show, and I want to sell my product. I need help, and then all of a sudden it gets ripped off.
Well, you see it so much in this industry. I mean, you'll see, and I think a lot of it comes to do with like quality production. So if you see so much stuff overseas, it comes from the same warehouse, just different branding on it. It's like getting away from like reinventing the wheel. It's like, you look at some people like the Made in America people, like those, that is such a big, we overlook that so much. Like the crowd that just is so loyal, which I respect. They want to see that sticker or that tag, and it's like,
and they're willing to pay for it.
And they're willing to pay for it. And that's the biggest thing. Is
100% they're willing to pay for it.
If you're starting up, man, I mean, I think don't drop quality because of, I mean, I think keep the quality and keep the same goals you always had. Don't change your game plan. Obviously change it but like if it's working and you're building a great product, stick with it. I mean, because you see it so much, man.
Let me ask you this in regards to the Made in America concept, because there is a target demographic that is like, I want Made in America products. With COVID and the backup at the docks in Seattle and LA and all this coming from China and stuff like that, it made it very tough on companies to consistently source materials in America. And now they're facing margin budgets of like, I still need to make money off of a product to still keep it in America versus, okay, we're going to remove that Made in America tag and then start pulling from overseas. As far as a trust in a brand or trust in the advertising or a company, or as a consumer investing into a company, do you find that to be paramount? Like, do you stay true to what you started out to be?
I would say yes and no. I mean, I'll give you an example. So one of the portfolio companies I used to run was a precast concrete swimming pool company. We had crazy supply chain issues, not just COVID related, but we also had a freeze that came through Texas about 2 years ago.
Yeah, shut everything down.
Well, in that 48-hour period, it was negative 16 degrees for 4 days straight. There were power outages everywhere. The power
Pipes bursting.
Yeah, it was a mess. I learned a lot more about plumbing than I ever thought I would during that time. But during that 4 days, there was 300,000 pools in Texas destroyed, whether it was pumps cracked, concrete cracked, the equipment failed, froze over. And the flow-on effect that had on the supply chain was in the 30 days following that freeze, there was more pool equipment purchased in Texas alone than all of the US sales in the previous 12 months.
Wow.
And we're talking about billions of dollars of equipment. And so we were manufacturing these pools, and we had scaled our business to what is now the largest and fastest growing pool company on the planet. But during that time, we got crippled with supply chain issues to the point where a $3 little eyeball return where the water gets pumped back from the pump back into the pool. It's a $3 part. We were paying $63 a piece if we could get it. We also couldn't find 4 different types. We usually have the one type of skimmer box. We had to go with 4 different types because we could just work with what we could get. And so what we found during that time was over communicating with customers, because we know that we ended up with some unhappy customers that kind of didn't get the full experience of the promise that we kind of everything we stood for. And because we had supply chain issues, but I found over communicating, coming back to that customer service piece, really was quite effective in kind of being able to navigate that. And so back to the USA made versus thing, people understand that stuff happens. People understand that businesses, products fail, or they have a bad batch of something, and products break unintentionally. And what you were saying before around like that open communication of understanding, and as a brand being able to communicate with your customer to solve problems for them. Yes, it feeds your R&D pipeline as well, but it's that brand experience that people remember and they'll take with you forever.
I mean, you can span that with just good customer service. I mean,
and so the whole US versus offshoring, when anomalies happen like COVID and the supply chains we experience, or if situations like what I explained, people understand that and they are willing to kind of, work with you and potentially kind of shift a normal pattern, understanding that it's a short-term change.
Yeah, it's a good point.
One of the questions in regards to marketing and advertising, and this is important to that offshore versus made in America, is this idea of warranty in the outdoor space, right? It's like, some companies are like, oh man, lifetime warranty regardless. And then there's people that be like, well, they only have a lifetime warranty because, I just got an email in my inbox yesterday. Kimber Firearms just came out with a limited lifetime warranty for the first time. They, for the longest time, were only a 1-year limited warranty. And when it comes to marketing and advertising, how much does that play a role?
You lean into it if you can. I mean, I think that's important. Like it does give customers a little extra. If you're in my opinion, if you're on the fence with a product and they have a 1-year warranty versus a lifetime warranty, right out of the gate, it's like they're telling you, hey, we're with you for life. We're always going to be there for you. We're always going to replace this product if it fails. We're not saying 100% of our products are working 100% of the time, all the time, but we're here for you if they don't.
Yeah.
And so it's almost like it's a brand statement in a way, where lifetime warranty, that means we're here as a brand for you for life.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's like almost that kind of like a statement in a way.
well, like my sister told me this story. She used to work at Nordstrom. And they're known for having one of the best customer service and just experiences in the world. I guess in one of their stores, a guy walked in and he brought a tire into Nordstrom. The location used to be a tire shop. And he goes, I just had this, and he goes, I need to bring this back. There's a warranty on this tire from years ago, and Nordstrom took it back.
No way.
And had a customer for life because of that.
And gave him his money back. And it's like, I mean, it's crazy. Like you go into Shields, you can return, say you go buy something from Cabela's, you can return it to Shields. And like, they've done so well at capturing that customer.
Wow.
You can spend Cabela's gift cards at Shields. Like,
is that right?
Yeah. This kind of stuff where you can do, and it's just insane. Like these customer experiences, and those are the brands that will withstand all this.
REI, I used to be an employee at REI. Backpacking food, like freeze-dried food, which is used by everyone in the outdoors. If you weren't satisfied, regardless of if it was a brand product, you could return it. Save your empty packaging. You could have eaten that whole meal and then be like, man, I really hated this.
If you don't like it, still warranty applies.
Yeah, I mean, it's crazy.
I think kind of to wrap this session up is it all comes back to trust, brand trust, and it's the experience that people have with you, not just before the sale, kind of going through that kind of content pipeline down to the transaction, but it's what happens after.
Yeah.
And I mean, warranties. I mean, one of the best examples of warranties that I see is Leupold, because they'll warranty their rifle scopes forever, whether you're the original owner or not.
Yeah.
So if you then change hands and kind of moves on to someone else, they'll honor those kind of warranties, and so that's real.
And there's still quality with the warranty. I mean,
and Smith Sunglasses does the same thing.
Yeah.
Costa does the same thing.
Yeah.
I mean, you got to look at I look at the Temple Fork Outfitters. I can break my fly rod, send it back on a Monday, and I'll have a fly rod by Friday.
Wow.
It's $35. I mean, I'm
They're
sure
out of
it's.
Texas.
I'm sure.
I think they're out of Texas.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they're out of Dallas. I'm sure it's what the
Dang
rod
right.
costs. It's what the rod costs them to make, probably.
Sure.
You're just covering their cost.
Yeah.
And
But you'll pay that.
Exactly. And yeah, I mean, if fly rods, I mean, and obviously in the game of a flimsy graphite stick that you're going to break all the time, like you got to have one, but theirs is superior to everybody else's. And
Yeah.
there may be better rods, yes,
Mm.
but I just go buy Temple Forks every day.
Yeah.
Because they're the best
Yeah,
warranty.
because
I
of
break
the,
rods
because
every
of
week.
the full package after the purchase.
Yeah.
It's true.
Yeah.
Very cool. So what's just to kind of wrap this up? Like, what's the future look like for Split Reed? Like, what are the things that get you guys excited? What have you got coming down the pipe?
Yeah, I'd say, I mean, we're expanding beyond waterfowl. I mean,
Yeah.
a lot of people don't realize that. We've, had a lot of success in waterfowl, and Split Reed will always be kind of our waterfowl channel or entity or outlet. But we've kind of branded another kind of underlying media agency. It's called People Are Wild Co. And
Say
it's
that again.
People Are Wild Co.
People are wild.
People Are
That's
Wild
such a sick
Co.
name.
Yeah.
And it's the intersection of people and the wild.
To clarify, because I want to make sure that peoplearewildco.com or people are wild.
Peoplearewild.com because the co was taken on the domain. But
Gotcha.
peoplearewild.com. It's actually a live website right now. And it's kind of, as we've authentically have grown beyond waterfowl, and we have clients that, it's that the capabilities that we have and the formulas and our processes and our team and our skill sets are applicable beyond just the waterfowl industry,
100%.
right? Like it's the same formula, whether you talk about hiking, biking, hunting, fishing, it's all the same formula. We've talked about it for however long. So we've realized that why not do it why not do it in this industry or that industry? And so we've kind of created this agency underneath Split Reed or over Split Reed. Doesn't matter, whichever you want to look at it. It's a separate arm of what we've created, and it's our way of being able to position ourselves with conversations with brands, with marketing directors. Is, hey, like we've got this formula, we've got it figured out pretty well. We can apply this to your brand in X, Y, or Z industry. So historically, like people will have conversations with us and like, oh, you can create content outside of waterfowl. It's like, you're right, damn right we can. We absolutely can.
Yeah.
So now it's more of like, how do we position ourselves to have that conversation where we can come to you guys for anything outdoor content, and we can tell stories no matter what the industry is. And the Split Reed outlet from a distribution standpoint, that's our kind of waterfowl hunting distribution channel, and that will always be valuable. But the quality of the content and the media itself, that we can create for anything, and we can tell stories no matter what the industry is. So that's one thing that's very exciting. I would say just this year we kind of launched that, and that's going to kind of take us to new heights, new industries, different passions that we all have as well, right?
Don't
like it's
reinvent
not just
the wheel.
Well,
You found a recipe that works.
Yeah.
And it's a place, I mean, it's we've already been doing projects outside of waterfowling, but it's a place to spotlight them.
Yeah.
And at least show the world that, we can handle it. I mean, we've built this platform, this formula, and it can span industries. So
Yeah.
So that's exciting.
Very cool.
Very excited about that.
Well, how can people connect with you guys?
at Split Reed on Instagram.
Yep. On Instagram, at Split Reed, at People Are Wild Co. on Instagram, on our websites, emails, everything's connected through there. So you can find us through the website, through Instagram. Phone numbers are through there as well, so you can call us, and you can if you ask or you look hard enough, you can find us. You can find us personally or any of our other partners in this. So, and we'd love to chat
Easy
with
to
anybody.
reach.
Yep.
Awesome. Very cool. Well, we really appreciate your time, guys.
We appreciate you guys
This is
having
a
us.
great first podcast,
Yeah.
and I'm excited for what's in the future for you guys.
Yeah,
Well, we appreciate you guys having us on, and we're excited for the future as well.
Yeah,
appreciate it.
awesome.